This is Dr. John Bennett, broadcasting from Miami for MedGadget Hangout channel. Tonight we have the pleasure of having Gene Fridman, PhD, a bioengineer from John Hopkins, who's also a researcher in the I won't say that, I'll just say ENT department. He's going to talk about the mouth tricorder, which is a handheld 3D printed device. And we have a few distinguished panelists. We're going to first introduce the panelists and before turning it over to Gene. Good evening, Fred.
Hi guys, live from Belgium here. Yeah, really excited for this great new device, and yeah, can't wait to hear more from it.
Welcome, and it's 3 o'clock in Belgium. We appreciate Fred's dedication.
Yeah.
And Gino, you want to just say hi?
Yes, hi. This is Gino Ostrovsky from. I'm an editor at MedGadget. And I just wanted to say that Dr. Fridman will be talking about the Mouth Lab rapid medical assessment device, right?
Okay, yeah, I got that wrong. I said mouth tricorder. Okay, Simon, good evening.
Good evening. It's very nice to be here. I'm in Tokyo, Japan. I'm a developmental psychologist and a researcher in the area of bone-conducted hearing aids, and I'm also a medical student. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Simon. Thank you for coming. Okay, Gene, it's all yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much for inviting me. This is very much an honor. So I guess I should tell you about the device, right, and the idea and so on.
Yes.
So all right. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we'll start with that.
Okay, I got to mute.
Okay, so excuse me. So a few years ago, maybe 4 years ago, a friend of mine, his grandmother died because she came to the hospital too late. So she was suffering from a chronic illness, which was, I believe, her heart, but she died because she developed pneumonia. And she could have prevented the death, in principle, if she would have only been testing her temperature. But she didn't know that she should have been doing that. And so it got me thinking that there may be many chronically ill people who are just simply susceptible to other complications other than their primary condition. And I kind of started looking at that, and I want to show you a little bit of statistics. So here's one that was a little bit shocking. So half of all adults, like literally half of the entire world population, suffers from some sort of chronic disease. Okay? Chronically ill people are at high risk of multiple health complications, many of which may have nothing to do with their primary condition. Half of the chronically ill patients do not receive sufficient care, and underserved populations rarely receive routine care. This is what I found. And so I started looking at current technology and trying to think about a way how we can address this issue. So if you know your medical condition, such as, for example, let's say you're suffering from hypertension, you're going to go out and you're going to buy a blood pressure cuff, right? But you're not going to go out and buy a thermometer necessarily. And so the devices that are out there available for people to use, you really can't find something that will assess your overall health quickly, okay? So now I started thinking about, well, what is there? Okay, so where are we with all of this technology? So the technology today allows us to combine many measurements, and the telecommunications industry has really progressed over the last 20 years to allow us to instantaneously take all of these measurements and combine them, put them into electronic patient record, and everything including talking to the patient, but obtaining the measurements are essentially done in the same way that they've been done for many, many, many years. Okay, so as an engineer, I started thinking, okay, how am I going to, what are the requirements for a device that I'm going to create? Okay, so first of all, it needs to be portable. These are the requirements that I placed on myself. Okay, so it needs to be portable, it needs to be non-invasive, and no attachments. It needs to obtain maximum number of medical measurements so you can create a broad picture, a more complete picture of health to catch any of the problems that may occur, any of the complications early. We need to reduce the measurement time to seconds, something that can be done very quickly, something that's not going to take this patient a long time and not going to affect compliance and the fact that this patient will adhere to these measurements. And of course, we would like to automatically add the data to the patient record and allow the doctors and the nurses who are typically following a chronically ill patient to have access to these. And also, and this is, I think, very important, we need it to be simple to use. It needs to be something that a patient can look at and instead of being overwhelmed by a whole lot of measurements, something that'll tell them, you know what, you're okay, or maybe you should call your nurse and have her look at your results. Something to that effect. Okay, so having now thought about these requirements, the idea came up, well, the mouth contains saliva, it contains breath, it contains blood vessels that are very close to the epithelium, to the mucous membrane, and all of these contain a large amount of bioinformation about a person's health, huge amounts. And so the mouth became sort of a natural place to go to gather all of this information. So now faced with this idea, okay, we're going to go to the mouth to be able to obtain the complete picture of a person's health. What are the first steps? And the first steps, the way I thought about it, would be to be able to collect all of the measurements that are currently being collected by other commonly devices that you could obtain. Okay, so what is that? That's commonly referred to as vital signs, but I thought we could do more. So this is what we what I focused on. So temperature, blood pressure, pulse rate, breathing rate, blood oxygen saturation, electrocardiogram, and some form of lung function. Because and electrocardiogram and lung function are very specific because many of the people who are suffering from chronic illnesses, in fact, suffer from either heart or lung condition. Okay, so that's, I'm going to stop with the show there, and I'm going to kind of show you where we progressed from that point. Okay, so this was 4 years ago that the idea came up. And at that time, I was a brand new professor at Hopkins, and I honestly did not have the funding in my lab to take on this project. And so it became sort of an outside project, and I literally created the first version of the mouth lab in my basement. So this is sort of working nights and weekends kind of an idea. Here's the mouthpiece, all right, and it's very difficult to take off and put on. But by building this and then trying it on myself and with some friends, it became sort of clear what the challenges were. I then applied for funding from the state of Maryland, and the money came in to actually for me to bring it into my laboratory here at Hopkins. And at that point, then I hired a couple of students, and we developed this gizmo here. So this is an improvement on the previous version. The mouthpiece is considerably easier to put in, take out. And there were a number of engineering issues that were overcome with this one. And it's also, we also made it wireless at this point, whereas the original one had to be wired through a USB port. So, so that's where we were, and we created 2 of these devices, and then we wanted to see how well they're actually working. And so we basically we obtained data from healthy subjects around the research wing, and then we also went to the hospital and we obtained measurements from patients who were in the hospital. And with each set of measurements, we also collected the gold standard measurements using a blood pressure cuff, using a pulse oximeter, and so on, thermometer, and all of these measurements. So all of these results ultimately ended up in a publication which came out just now in the Annals of Biomedical Engineering. So it's this one. I don't know if you can see it. So called Mouth Lab, a Tricorder concept optimized for rapid medical assessment. So that's kind of where that ended up with, and we decided to then at that point to move things a little bit further along and see if we could commercialize this device at the same time that we would establish some more research going on in my laboratory. So let me show you one more, the next prototype, which is this one. So this one is this one doesn't have any wires hanging out anymore. I don't know if you can see that. And it has a thumb pressure sensor, which tells you if you're pressing too hard, which is very important for the blood pressure measurement, and I'll be happy to explain. And so now we have this. We also have a tablet user interface which captures all of the measurements. And perhaps at this point I can show you a video of it that may be actually important at this point. Hold on. All right. Okay, so let me just preface. So this video, this is a portion of a video that can be seen on either YouTube or the website for the company. In fact, the company is called Multi-Sensor Diagnostics, but it can be also reached through mouthlab.com. Now, so this is a portion from that video, and there are more interesting things in the video as well for the viewers who are interested. But let me show you this, what's happening with these measurements here. This was recorded last week. So, can you see it? Yeah, okay. So what you're seeing there is on the top there is a temperature measurement being obtained, pulse rate, along with the electrocardiogram. We have a breathing rate. Breathing rate's obtained both from the nose and the mouth, so you don't actually have to be breathing through the mouthpiece. And the blood pressure is obtained by pulse wave transition time. And so at this point, maximum exhale, what we're looking at is an estimate of lung function, which is essentially the percent exhale during a hard exhale. Let me get out of this because we're done there. So the lung function is assessed by the percent exhale during a hard exhale over the first second of that. There's a medical name for it, FEV1 over FVC. Yep.
A spirometer.
Yeah, well, right. It's one of the functions of the spirometer, but it's a very useful one for assessing asthma and assessing COPD progression, as well as whether or not you have a problem or have developed a problem or no longer have this problem. So that's where we are. Let me show you one more thing, and then we can go on to the discussion perhaps. So this is the final thing I'm going to show you. So this is a mock-up of the medical version of the device. So it looks a lot less like a weapon or taser, and looks a little more like a medical device. So this is a mock-up of it. It's not an actual thing. It will have a display on it. It will also automatically send the data wirelessly to the cloud to integrate into the EMRs. So that's where I am.
Well, very, very good, Gene. Good presentation. Good story.
Thanks.
The dedication, using your own money and working on weekends and nights. Okay, any questions from the panel?
I have a quick
All comments. Okay.
Thank you very much. It's very, very interesting. It's just I was really taken aback. I was just, wow, this is incredible. I imagine that when you are, I don't know if you've already started your official testing for your IC tests, etc. In preparation for your. I imagine has it already gone through the FDA, or is it in the process? Is it a class 2? I have a million questions about it. I'm wondering in what process you are in coming to market this. How far you are along?
Sure. So basically, we formed a company. It is going to be a class 2 device. To the next steps for us, besides the fundraising that needs to happen to get to the next phase, is the completion of 50 units that will look more like an actual final device, and it will function and feel like the actual device. Then we are going to distribute these devices to nurses and conduct a clinical trial. And following that, then we're going to submit for FDA approval. At this point, we have 2 prototypes.
It's fantastic.
Thank you.
How much do you expect the cost when they're on the market?
You know, it's actually very difficult to establish right now until we narrow in on the specific market that we're going to approach first. As you can imagine, we are looking at several markets, and I can tell you some of them. One of them is home healthcare. Another one that appears to be big on our list is nursing homes. Then we have urgent care clinics, emergency rooms, and underdeveloped regions as well. So I think depending on where this device is going to be applied first will determine the price point for that device to be competitive with whatever other devices are out there within that market. I'm sorry, I can't really give you a number just because I think it will depend on where it's going.
I thought I read, Gene, that it takes a 3-lead EKG or basic EKG.
Yeah, that's what you saw actually. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I thought I just saw the 1 lead on there.
No.
Oh, 3 leads. Okay. Okay. No, you don't have to show it again, but.
No. I mean, I can show you where the leads are.
Okay.
So this is 1.
Okay.
And on the mouthpiece, 1 goes on the upper lip, 1 goes on the lower lip.
Okay.
3-lead EKG.
Do you know what leads they are offhand? Like a 81.
Which one's plus, which one's minus? The one on the finger is a plus, the one on the upper lip's a minus, and the one on the lower lip is a reference.
Okay. But imagine, no one would expect a full EKG, but like you mentioned in one of the articles, the rhythm is one of the important things you're looking at.
Yeah. I think one of the things that we would like to obtain is, while the patient is holding the device, we can really get a picture. It's a very limited picture. Obviously, you're not monitoring a patient for an entire day, for example, to get a complete view of what could be happening to their heart. But you can certainly observe irregularities, such as an irregular atrial contraction or an irregular ventricle contraction, or perhaps a missing heartbeat. Something that could happen within, say, 30 heartbeats, the 30 seconds that you're going to be holding this in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering how accurate is blood pressure, because post-transit time, I don't think it's really ever been used clinically. Is it?
Right. So this is interesting. I'm glad you asked about that. So pulse transit time. So what happens? What happens is the heart contracts, and the blood then starts moving away from the heart. And what we're looking at is we have an electrical signal from the heart, so we know exactly when it contracted. We also know at what point does the upper lip start filling with blood. We also know at what point does the thumb start filling with blood, because we're monitoring the blood volume optically, both in the thumb and in the upper lip. Okay, so now as this blood starts filling, we can look at other parameters. Not only when did this pulse wave get there, but we can also look at how quickly does it fill, how long does it take to fill, and how much blood volume there is overall. All in all, we've collected, I believe, about either 9 or right. I believe it's 9 parameters that we've collected altogether. Now, we didn't know which of those parameters would be important. Now, where this comes in is, if, for example, a person is older, okay, they will have their arteries will be less elastic, and if their arteries are less elastic, then that pulse wave will actually travel faster, which has nothing to do with their blood pressure, right? So somehow, somewhere within that set of parameters, there may be an indication that actually observes this. Now, as an engineer, I did not really know which of these parameters were an indication of what with reference to blood pressure per se. So what we did is we used a standard engineering algorithm called artificial neural networks, which essentially correlates a set of parameters to some outcome, right? And so we were able to then, from the data that we collected from the patients and the data that we collected from the healthy subjects, we were able to then obtain this algorithm and find the parameters for this algorithm such that we could apply it and be able to obtain blood pressure, diastolic and systolic, from the set of measurements that we get from blood movement.
So when you're taking that test, do you need to enter the age of the person or any other things like that?
I'm sorry, Gene. I'm sorry. I
Oh, there's an echo. Everybody mute. Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold on, let me turn a little bit down. Maybe you can turn down your speaker a little bit, myself as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I was asking if there's any kind of calibration of the system or the age of the person that's using to set to adjust for the blood pressure.
So surprisingly, no, we did not have to do anything, and so I believe that this one algorithm will actually work for everybody. So I think once we start testing this on a number of people, this will become apparent. But my firm belief now is that it won't, because the way we tested this algorithm is we actually had, if you can imagine, a set of all people that we tested. So there were 52 subjects in this test. So the way we figured out whether or not this algorithm works is like this. We took out one subject completely out of this whole set. Then we used this set of patients and their parameters and their systolic, diastolic blood pressures that we got from their arm. And then we trained our algorithm from the data based on this set of people, right? We trained that algorithm just on this set. But we tested this algorithm, right, strictly on that one patient that was taken out, right? And this was a way to see whether or not the algorithm works for that one patient. Then, in order to see whether or not this algorithm works for a different patient, we would take this same person, put them back in, take out the next person, redo this algorithm, and make sure that it worked again for the person that we just took out. Mm-hmm. The weights that we got for our neural network came out very similar in each case, but we wanted to make sure that we never test our algorithm on a set of patients that were used to create the algorithm. I don't know if this all makes sense, but
yeah.
Okay, so I really, and when we did this, we got a very good result. You can look in the paper. I'd be happy to show you the plot if that's of interest. Hold on, let me look, because I know that's that could be. Here we go. All right, let me just share the screen real quick. Okay, so what you're seeing here is you're seeing actual blood pressure that we collected from patients, and we're seeing the mouth lab estimate. Okay, so if it's on a 45-degree line, it's an ideal fit, right?
And the green is which?
Green is diastolic and gray is systolic. So that's the data that we got. So because of that, I am relatively convinced that we're on the right track here, and I think it will work for everybody. And I think, but we need to build these 50 units. We need to build this algorithm into these units and test it out. But it looks awfully good.
Excellent.
You
I wanted to ask you about glucose monitor. Do you think we're any optical glucose sensor?
Mm-hmm. So glucose monitoring, right now the device does not do that. The methods that are being explored for non-invasive glucose monitoring, that I believe could be pertinent here is electrical impedance based, and also light spectrometry. Okay, so because we have access, because we can in principle do both, and because we can monitor the exact volume of blood, because we're taking optical measurements of the blood volume, we can in principle monitor the components of the blood. And there are there is certainly a signature that glucose has at particular wavelengths, especially infrared wavelengths, that could be observed and tracked to see the blood glucose. At least that's the approach that we intend to take, but we have not done the preliminary experiments on that yet.
Will that be a pretty expensive thing to do, to test it?
It'll be not expensive if I can borrow equipment from my colleagues.
Okay.
But if I have to buy the equipment, then yes, it would be an expensive thing to test.
That would be the killer app of the decade. If you could non-invasively get glucose, that would be unbelievable.
Well, I can promise you that's the first thing that we're going to be trying here.
Well, all the diabetics of the world would love you for it.
Do you have plans to enter for the Tricorder X Prize competition?
So the Tricorder X Prize, the thing with that is by the time that, so when that announcement came out, I really wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to apply for it, and so I sort of missed the application deadline in a way. So you know, at this point, you know, I guess it's too late, but that's okay. I mean, we're all for the benefit of humanity, you know.
Have you tried any competitor? Well, not competitors, but any like entries into the X Prize, like the the supposedly existing Scanadu Scout, for example. Have you tried any of those?
We haven't tried them personally. We have talked to people who have tried them, and you know, I have a business partner who's focusing a lot more on the competitive products and competitive advantages and so on. You can see what's going on the website. Maybe it'll be clearer. I personally tend to focus on what we can do and trying to do the best, you know, the best job that we can of getting this thing to work. So I don't focus so much on the competition at this point.
You know, Gene, what kind of time period are you talking about? Maybe Simon could answer this too, as far as approximately when it might be approved by the FDA. A year, 2 years?
So our goal is anywhere between 18 to 36 months to get this out into the market, with the initial market being a medical device. So we'd like to get this FDA approved and get into the hands of clinicians.
Okay, very good. Fred, you're being very quiet there. You're still there, over in Belgium?
Yeah, I had the same question about blood glucose. Yeah, already posed. No, really looking like a great device. Could help a lot of people. And yeah, looking forward for the commercialization. So yeah, get my hands on it.
Very good. Well, okay, we'll wrap it up, Gene. Very good presentation, and it seems like a super device if it's approved and everything. I know it'll make things a lot easier in the ER to just hand it to a patient when they come in and just attend to other things. But we look forward to hearing from you in the future and the progress of the project. And thank all the panelists for coming out. Okay, good night, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Gene.
Okay.